Hello everyone, this is Joel over here, and this is our 8th episode of our React series. And in this episode, we will be covering the topic called filtering and sorting. What is filtering and sorting, and how it can be implemented in React. So, before entering into the topic, I would like to clarify some things from the previous episodes. So previously we have seen what is dynamic loading. So we have created a component called course.jsx, and instead of making hard programming over here, we have given the argument values and we have just used cards.jsx, and we have imported all our values in the form of objects, and then we have dynamically loaded our cards over here. So this is the place we left in previous episode, right? Here in our web page, if you just right click and check inspect window console, you can see an error over here saying that each child in a list should have a unique key property. So basically our course.jsx file is a parent file, and this parent file has a child file called cards.jsx. So what they meaning over here is each child in a list should have a unique key. So once we append an object over here, a child will be created. Let's demonstrate and show you. I'll just copy this, and you can see right now we have only one React course. If I just append an object over here, you can see a child is being created. So basically this is a child. This HTML course card is a child which exists in parent file called course.jsx. So all this child should have an unique identifier. That's what they are meaning over here, called key. To access these files individually, we want an key or unique identifier. So in our script, we didn't include any key or ID over here. So this has to be included to access each child independently. So let's include it, and there are two ways to include the key over here. So first, if you are importing the data from any database or table, we have either ID or else serial number, which is always be unique for each instances, right? So those ID or serial number can be given as key over here. Example, since I have written my instances through objects, I'm just giving my ID over here, mentioning ID 1, comma, and ID colon 2, comma. Let's better copy this. ID 3 and ID 4 and last ID 5. So we have given ID or else unique identifier for her cards. So now we have to tell our parent file that we have an individual ID for each child. So the attribute is, let's refresh. So the attribute over here is key, right? So this is the attribute we are gonna tell our parent file course. So key is equal to brackets courses dot id. So now if we refresh, you can see the error is gone. So we have given individual ID for our each child. Example, for HTML course, our ID number is 1. Using this ID 1, you can access our HTML course card. I mean the child over here. ID2 is for CSS course. ID3 is for JS course. Same way, we have provided an individual identifier for each child over here. So this is a one way for giving a key for a child. There's the other way. Here we are using array, right? So array basically has index. So this particular object is placed in index 0. This particular object is placed in index 1. So basically for each object the index is unique over here. So instead of explicitly providing the ID over here, we can just mention the index also. Let's remove these IDs. So now if we refresh and check, again the key has to be included, the warning comes over here. So now in our map function, we are just using an argument courses, right? With it, we can just include an argument called index, which is we are getting the index of the each object. So HTML course index is 0 over here. And for CSS, it's 1. For JS course, it's 2. So basically for each objects, we have an index over here. So this index will be given as parameter over here. So, yep. So now if we check, the key error, I mean the key warning has been gone because each child has the unique identifier which is index, their own index. HTML has 0th index, CS has first index, JS course has second index, and this React has third index. So better I'll just remove this. Yep. So this is the one I wanted to say. And second thing is, let's remove this HTML course from here. I mean, let's have this brackets and we'll just remove the contents over here. Now you can see this block is been shown, I mean rendered in our web UI, but it doesn't has any meaning, right? So we no need to have this kind of cards over here. That meaning what I'm telling over here is, since this is an empty object, even though it's an empty object, this object is been rendered in our web UI, which is not required over here. So what is the option over here? We can just move on with it. It's conditional rendering. So conditional rendering, in the sense, we will just add an attribute called show over here, and if show is true, we will just make an if else condition in our parent, and if it's true, we will just make this return statements render in our web UI. But this is a laborious work to do, and we have a better way to fix this conditional rendering in an easier manner. So from this child card, let's move on to these objects. So from here, we are getting attributes like title, description, price, and image. So which can be a primary key over here? Of course, it's title, right? Because without a price also a course can be rendered in UI, making that the price will be announced later in some other way. Description is also not a mandatory one. Image, they can or they might know it, but title is more important, right? Without title, the user can't understand what is this course about, right? So title is more a major attribute over here. So now in this title is the primary key, right? So now in our parent file, which is course.jsx, props dot title ampersand. So now if we check, you can see that empty box is being disappeared over here. So basically what happens here is same as conditional rendering. It's like kind of if else condition, but actually not. I'll explain why. Because ampersand, in the sense, it's a logical function which is called AND. So basically AND has two inputs, or else three inputs. Basically the AND function is, if both are true, it will return true, else it will return false over here. In first case, props.title, you can see in our cars.jsx, in first object, props.title is empty over here, which indicates false. So now in course.jsx, this whole statement becomes false and this is true. So false and true will return false. This is the basic logic of our AND gates over here, or else AND logics. So false and true will return false. Hence there won't be any child will be creating in our UI. Else in other object, if you just verify, we have title called CSS courses, right? So this has a title which is true. So here this value will be true, and true will return a true, and this will create an object. Let's remove the title alone and check. I'm just removing the CSS course title and just comment this. So now in our course.jsx, title is false over here. So here you can see CSS course has been disappeared. Only JS and React is been visible over here. So instead of using show attribute and if else, React is basically used to write scripts with less number of lines, right? So this is an alternative method of conditional rendering also. So these two things I wanted to include in this episode itself. Later hooks and other more deeper concepts are gonna start. So let's finish this basics with proper clear I thought of. So I just gave this attributes and all those things. Okay. So now let's reset our objects over here. Okay, yep. So now, yeah. Okay, now let's move on to our actual episode 8, which is filtering and sorting. So first, let's move on with sorting. Later, we'll just move on to filtering. So I'll just make this hidden. Okay, yep. So what is sorting? Sorting is basically we are gonna arrange our objects in based on some algorithm. It can be ascending, descending, or else your own algorithms you can have. So now let's, for simplicity, let's move on with ascending and descending. In future episodes, we can just look into the like your one scripts how you can write for sorting algorithm. So now we are gonna sort this parent file, right? Course.jsx. So let's include this. We have included in a variable called course. Let me copy this and course dot sort. We have a function called sort, which is method over here. So we are not gonna write a sorting algorithm. Sorting algorithm is already written in our React. We are just gonna import the method and we are gonna use it. So if it is single numbers and all those stuffs, you can just give the values over here. But our list contains objects, right? So of course we have to write a arrow function over here. Without arrow function, you can't fill this sort. Even map, we have written arrow functions because we are using objects over here. That's what I said in the first episode itself. Please be aware of what is arrow functions from JavaScript. JavaScript is mandatory for learning React because React is the library of JS, right? Of course, yeah. So course.sort, here we are gonna write an arrow function saying that I'm gonna get two arguments. Let's consider it as x comma y. So x is a object of first index, I mean 0th index. Y is the again an argument gonna hold the object of first index. So x comma y, we are gonna sort these cards based on let's have price category. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is y dot price minus x dot price. So from y is a object, right? which is gonna hold the first index over here. So in this first object, take the price, and this price $299 will be uh, in this area. It will be like holding in this place. So $299 will be available over here, y dot price. Next, in x dot price, zeroth index, right, which is $4.99. This value will be replaced over here, x dot price. So now if we check over here, it won't work because data type is matter over here, because we have given price in string, right? We have to convert this into number, then only arithmetical operations will be applicable over here. Let's remove this. Data type is more important. That's what, like, while starting itself we have to give the proper data types to avoid this. Yep. Okay, now let's go and check after changing these data types. Okay, again still it's not rendered over here. This is because we have made a small mistake over here, because uh, see over the line over here, we are just given course dot sort, right? What does this course hold over here? This is a variable name of a parent file. Does a parent file has been linked over here? No, right? So basically we have to sort this array which is called cards. So this is a human error. So instead of course, it should be cards over here. Yep. So now you can see all the cards is being sorted in descending order, which is 999, 899, 499, 299 in terms of price. So what's happening over here is we are getting an x argument which holds a particular object, taking y argument holds the second object, taking the price attribute of y and taking the price attribute of x, and if we do the difference, this will result into a descending order. This is a formula for descending order you can have. In case if you want to arrange this in ascending order, you can just go on with x and y, x dot price minus y dot price. So this will result in ascending order. So this is a sorting algorithm, and you can just include whatever arguments you want, either y comma x, either way. So if you include in y comma x, this will again sort in descending order, because x and y doesn't matter over here, which is first argument and second argument is matter over here. If you want to sort in again in ascending, it's like y dot price and x dot price. You can see it got sorted in ascending. So basically first argument and second argument is matter over here. Better we can just have it x and y and keep this formula. It's just like very basic syntax. So this is the sorting algorithm. So next let's see how to filter this. So for filtering, let's filter these cards based on price value which is greater than 500. Okay, so now const, I'm just creating a variable like VFM courses, value for many courses. Okay, so now which is equal to, we are gonna filter from this cards, right? So what is our array name, which is cards over here? Just copy this, paste cards dot, we have a method called filter. So this method has to include a predicate. It's like hovering over there, right? Saying that we have to include a predicate. Based on some predicate it should filter, right? So again same, we are gonna use arrow function over here. Arrow function is again mandatory for React. So now let's write a arrow function, and now I'm gonna get an argument called cards over here, or else let's have it as course itself. So course is like a random variable or a random argument I'm just giving. It doesn't have any meaning in other attributes over here. Just I'm gonna get a cards. I'm gonna store these cards in a course argument. That's it. This can be whatever you want. It's a unique thing. So now course is an argument I'm getting in an arrow function, and this course I'm gonna filter it based on price. So course dot price, let's keep it less than 200. Okay, so now this should be filtered. Let's check. No, it's not filtered because we have just made our filter algorithm and stored in VFM courses. We have never set our app.jsx to render this VFM courses, right? So in cards here, in map function, we are again mapping this list over here, I mean array over here. Instead of this cards, you have to include our filtered variable over here, which is VFM courses, value for money courses. So now if we check, our UI is empty because it doesn't have any course which is less than 200. So let's keep it as less than 899. Okay, yep. So now you can see there are two courses which was less than 899 is been filtered and got rendered in our UI. So this is called filtering concepts, and let's try with greater than 899. I guess one, yeah. React course has been like filtered. Let's try with equal to, double equal to. So now you can see JS course has been given, which is double equal to is checking operator over here. It's not evaluating or something else. Okay, so now this is our filter and sort. Let's explain the filter again once. So what we are doing is we are just creating a variable called VFM courses, and cards is the name of our list. We are just taking this list and we are just giving this list to filter method. So this filter method is gonna handle an arrow function which says that, example, in cards, let's take the first object is been stored in our course. This argument name is a unique name. You can just give whatever you want. It doesn't have any sense in a React script. So this card is being stored in our course. So this course will be now again taking a attribute called price, and based on that attribute we are gonna use a number, or else you can use string and other data types too, but for better understanding I just move on with numbers over here. We are gonna check with the arithmetic operator over here. So based on this condition, the filtered cards will be stored in VFM courses. So this variable is again mapped with our map function, and we are providing those title, description, image and price to our parent file, and this parent file will again be exported in our app.jsx and it will get rendered in our UI. So this is called what is sorting and filtering, and this is how you can implement these two techniques in our React. Hope you guys understood this well. Let's see you on the episode 9 of our React series, where we can see what is buttons and how you can handle buttons. Right now we have buttons and it doesn't make any sense, right? Let's give a soul to this button in our next episode. And yep, thank you guys, stay tuned.